How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about One Piece 1057. What a chapter. It was the conclusion to Wano, practically. It means Wano's over now, finito, finished, it's done. Alright? So, what did I think about it? That's the big question. Now, we'll talk about Wano as a whole some other time, but we're just going to talk about the chapter today. For one, I think it does a good job of focusing on the main character relationships of Wano, as in Luffy and Momo, and and then the Scabbards in a little bit of a way as well. And the way it actually ends with the whole basically family photo of the Scabbards is a really nice way to end it. Like, no matter how you felt about the chapter, the way they ended it there with the family photo of the Scabbards, if the arc did for you what it was intended to do in making you care for these characters, or at least some of them, it hit quite hard. Now, I will say, let me just double check there, and I know some people will be like, well, it's fine, right? Hiyori and Toko are not in this photo, which I think is the big problem with this. I know Hiyori's off somewhere, but they easily could have done a small flash forward for this. I feel like it's a bit, to not have Hiyori and Toko in this photo is a bit bad. But to be fair, overall, I did quite enjoy that photo as the ending for Wano. I thought this chapter, as I sat with it for a bit, there are a few problems and whatever, but it's not really important right now. Like the whole not mistranslation, but misunderstanding about the Kozuki burn thing. I just have this image in my head because I'm a big believer of the Tama is Korazumi. They find out Tama's Korazumi and they go and attack her, and she becomes she awakens or conquers Haki and fucking knocks out all the samurai and becomes like an Orochi too, and is just like, I'm nah. It'd be funny though. We could see that, honestly. Like, you could see something like maybe one of the Korazumis were run out of Wano, and if Tama was, maybe she was run out of Wano, and then we got her joining the Straw Hats that way, but I doubt it. My big point here is, although they said the whole Korazumi were born to burn, regardless of whether it was a pun or not, I do think what's going to happen here is in the epilogue or in some sort of sequel series, we're going to find out either one of Tama might be Korazumi, and that is when they resolve it. In a sense, they resolve it particularly when Tama is found out, because Tama is someone who helped them in the raid, and they can forgive her and forgive her family that way, and understand not to pin the sins of the fathers on the sons and daughters, which is something that I think is very important for one to learn, and I can see why people are upset that lesson wasn't brought across in this arc. And there's a lot you could say about that, but realistically, in terms of the characters of Wano, I feel like this was a very good ending, because I think it's one of my favorite goodbyes, because it shows Luffy's maturity now, and also the fact he's able to deal with these situations very well now. And I feel like it's great to see, he's just so confident. And then with having characters that we grew to love over the last God knows how long. What has it been? 10 years now? When was Punk Hazard? 2012 in the manga, right? In the anime, right? So 10 years. So crazy. Now, obviously not 10 years for me, but people who read it from week to week, it's been 10 years since they met Momonosuke. And I'm sure it's been a lot of ups and downs, but I feel like it was a good way to end it, Luffy respects Momo as a little brother and will take care of him if he needs it. I will say the one thing I have to wonder, right? How are they going to get in contact? Let's say Blackbeard rolls up to find Pluton, right? How the fuck is Luffy going to know about that? If they opened up the borders, okay, that would make sense, because then they'd have a form of contact. But what you're basically hoping on here is that Blackbeard comes to Wano and they anticipate it ahead of time, and they're like, call Luffy, boys. We need to make sure, we need to anticipate that there's going to be a problem and call Luffy ahead of time, right? But that won't really work either, because imagine it's just some poser and it's he's not really causing any problems. Now, obviously with Blackbeard he would, but still, I don't know. We'll see how they handle it long term. And yes, I'm not bringing up the major issue here, because to be honest with you, I just laughed. When Yamato didn't join the crew and said she was going to stay, I just fucking laughed. Alright, I can tell right now some of my mates are dying, because I got because one of my mates, he sent me a Twitter thing, and he was like, Man, I saw a spoiler. Goda. And I know what he means now. He's just happy Yamato didn't join. And alright, I'm a little disappointed, okay, because I was so excited for that newspaper when like it'd be like Kaido's son joins the Straw Hats and they rock up and it'd be like, oh, it'd just be so cool, in my opinion, right? And with Yamato the way it is now, and you know, wanting to be Odin and traveling Wano, I think it would be a good cover story. I feel like that might be the next one where we have Yamato just traveling Wano, and it could be a point at the end of the cover story she might go off to sea on her own, and she might find she might reunite with Luffy and the gang in the final war. I could definitely see something like that happening, which I would enjoy personally. But I was just sitting there dying when it was like, oh no, I'm staying, because I've been hyping up Yamato joining the crew for ages, right? Yamato's a great character to me. Now I will admit 100%, it's 99% the fact that she's Kaido's child that I'm like really hyped to have Yamato on the crew, right? Because he's a major player in that sense, right? And I saw this art. Forgive me, I can't remember the Twitter but I'm not going to show it. I'm just going to describe it. It was this art of like Katakuri, Uta, and Yamato together, and my first thought was, boys, we need a like Naruto, you know, the Lee SD spin off for Naruto. We need that with those three, just the Yonko's children just rocking it out. Man, that'd be so cool. Just the Yonko's children just doing like slice of life adventures. I would love that stuff. Just have Yamato, Katakuri, and Uta. I like Katakuri has to be like the kind of like the leader of the group, while Yamato and Uta are constantly like bickering or messing about or going wild. I think that stuff would be insanely good. But still, I think this chapter in general was great for Momo and Luffy's relationship, as I said before. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with the Yamato stuff, 100%. I feel like you could have done a lot with Yamato, definitely. But again, as I've been kind of understanding, you know, he wants to focus on the Straw Hats that we already have. And the thing is, if we get new Straw Hats now, with like, okay, for example, let's say we get Vivi joins the crew, right? We already know Vivi, we know her whole story, we know everything about her for the most part. It would just be stuff about her previous ancestors that we'd need to learn about. So she could fit into the Straw Hats without there being much trouble of, for example, having to develop a new character. Because my big push for Yamato wasn't only that, it was also because if Yamato joined the crew, we could have more reason to give more Kaido flashbacks and more Kaido, you know, more talk about Kaido even if he is dead. And I'll talk about Kaido separately, but I will give a brief opinion on Kaido here. Right, I love Kaido in terms of design, voice, just the overall how he acts and his whole everything that's hinted when before his backstory. But the backstory itself, it is a bit small, 100%, and it just hints at different things, like his hatred for the Celestial Dragons. Like, you understand things now, but it doesn't really illuminate things. You understand why he wants the big war. You don't understand why he's in Wano. You can assume it's because of Pluton. Maybe he's just placing it there because of it. But you could also say, possibly, that he wanted to be the gatekeeper to Joy Boy. He felt, well, if Joy Boy's gonna be here when the borders open, I'm gonna sit here and wait for that fight. You know, he was waiting for that fight, sort of like a Goku character. You could totally infer that by what he says, especially in 10 to 13. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to be said for Kaido. There's possibilities. He's still very mysterious, and whether that's a good thing is up to you. I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not one to say, look, to be honest with you, when I was watching Dressrosa, I rushed through that to get to Whole Cake and Wano and Zoe and all this, because I was nearly catching up and I was hyped. Alright? So I don't think I consumed Doflamingo. I love Law, right, and Corazon and stuff, but I'm not as hyped about Doflamingo as everyone else would be. Now, whether that's because I consumed it super fast, or maybe, I don't know. But when I think, like, in terms of antagonists, I do really like Kaido, in the sense that he's just, there's a lot of mystery to him, and there seems to be a lot of compelling stuff to him that we didn't get answered. Now, this could all change in the future. I could go back to having, like, I have to say, I think Katakuri might be on top. I know he's not really a villain, but I think I might put Katakuri on top. I'm thinking it's like, if we put, all right, take Kaido out of the equation for now, and we have Katakuri and L, probably Doflamingo. Katakuri and L, Doflamingo, right? You could switch Doflamingo out with Crocodile and then put Dofi on the Crocodile. I don't know. I just really like Crocodile swag and all that shit. All right, and then Katakuri, love Katakuri. And Anel, I've grown to love Anel. I've rewatched Skype about 3 times this year, and it's just fantastic. I've loved everything about Anel, just his entire character, all that stuff. I know he's just like the power hungry god character, but he pulls it off so well, and I just love it. And that's a personal preference. Also, I'm big into lightning and stuff, so that's the sort of thing. But still, with Kaido, I'm big into dragons as well, and his intrigue is there. But still, we don't get that, right? With Enel, you can tell, with Enel, there wasn't much to get, right? You knew what you were getting, so you were satisfied with what you got, right? But with Kaido, there was a lot that was hinted at, right? And I get he wants to save it for later in the story, but at the moment, it just feels hollow, right? I know I said I made videos after like, what was it, 1052, where I was like, okay, this is the best arc ever. I love this arc. I was like, yes. Nah, but currently I still put Whole Cake over it, right? I know a lot of people don't like the chase and the ship or whatever. To be honest, I never noticed it. I was watching it not week to week. I was watching it in one go, so it didn't bother me as much. I just kind of got high after high after high, and it was great. Whole Cake is my favorite arc in One Piece so far. I can't rank the rest, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's the same with movies for me. Like, I know what my top is, and that's about it, right? I know what my number one is, and that's it. The rest of them are just filler picks. I can, which, with One Piece arcs, I will sit down and think about it, especially now that Wano's over. I feel like this is a great opportunity to talk about what my favorite arcs are in One Piece, and we'll get to it at some point. But I definitely think Whole Cake is still up there. I don't think Wano's my favorite arc. I feel like there's a few things that overall I'm a little like, okay. But I still think I prefer Kaido to most, right? Like, if we put Kaido in, I still think it might be. He's probably still one of my top, like, still one of my top like 4. Probably, you see, there's my brain cannot put Kaido over Doflamingo, because Doflamingo is kind of so good, and he has he ticks every box, right? He's got that character, he's got that charisma, and he's got a compelling backstory that impacts one of our favorite characters. You know what I mean? But I still just generally I prefer Kaido's, like everything else I prefer about Kaido. So for me, I still think Kaido's top 3. I think it'd be Katakuri and L and Kaido for me, really, in terms of that. And then probably Dofi or Crocodile for number 4. No, let's say Dofi number 4 and Crocodile number 5. Right, that's like my top 5 antagonists now. And I know I'm putting Kaido quite high, realistically. And I don't know how people feel about that. But I don't know. Everything outside of Kaido's backstory, I've loved. And Kaido's, all the hints for what Kaido, different things that are important to Kaido, and just all the speculation we had about him, whether people were, underwhelmed, I enjoyed that a lot. And I feel like that has definitely put him higher for me, because I enjoyed the speculating. I enjoyed like thinking about what it might be. Still, the mystery, man. We could be revealed. There could be so much more revealed in the coming arcs. We still don't know a lot about the ogres. There's a lot to be said about Kaido, but that's a topic for another day. Back on the topic though, we talk about, so this chapter starts with like a big poem thing. Now, to be honest with you, I skimmed over that. I wasn't about to pay attention to the poems. I got it. I watched a few people read it because I was like, fuck it, I'm not reading poem shite. So I watched a few people read it. So I skimmed over it myself, and I watched a few people read it, and I get the gist of the poem now. But I have to say, I don't know. I get the point. It's like, okay, Luffy's legend is gonna be passed down in Wano, and the story of Onigashima or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like we got that when they were talking about Joy Boy in one chapter, so it felt like a filler, to get to fill out one chapter, you know. So I wasn't really a big fan of that sort of the whole poem thing because we got like the your man teaching the kids about Joy Boy and Kaido and all that already after like the 7 day time skip. So I don't really see the need for this. I get there was a whole like thematic send off or something to do with the style Oda was going for this arc. Again, I don't know much about Japanese culture, so excuse me if it's something that is traditional for like kabuki. Is it kabuki plays? But I assumed he abandoned that because he didn't do the 5 act structure thing. Which, by the way, yeah, the endless act 3 is finally done. To be honest though, like overall, I think it was a good ending to the arc. I feel like it focused on like the two characters that were most important in this arc, which was Momonosuke and Luffy, and it focused on their relationship and how important it was. Because realistically, not a lot of people cared for the Scabbards. I personally, after the rewatch, do care for a lot of the Scabbards in Kinemon, Kiku, Ashiradoji, and Denjiro. I care for those Scabbards particularly, so I do care for those characters. But I know a lot of people could not give two shits about the Scabbards. Let's be real. So it's a very hit and miss situation here with them, personally. But everyone, as far as I'm aware, kind of cares for Momo now, right? We've been with him for so long. He's been so focused on the development from a lecherous little child to a man who will rule a country is fantastic, and it's been great to watch, and it's been one of the times I feel like Oda's little pervy gags have actually benefited the development of a character because it sort of made him seem weaker initially in the initial stages and then built him up when he became that proper ruler character. Now I have a whole video about that in Momonosuke, which I will link in the description if you want to go watch it. I'll probably have a card up here somewhere. Probably won't be around the right time because I don't know, but we'll see. It'll be there. Anyway, so it made sense to focus on Momonosuke. And to have his flag there, we talked about it a bit earlier, but to have his flag there was pretty cool. To actually have him have his first official Straw Hat territory. Because we got Fishman Island, but they still needed to get rid of Big Mom, so they'll probably do it now. And then we probably have Alabasta at this point. Like, let's be real. If Vivi's back in Alabasta, we definitely have the flag up there. Dressrosa. Like, if shit went down, I'd say they did. And especially after he became a Yonko. A few places probably have flags. Yeah, I don't know. But interestingly enough, we haven't talked about this at all. But let's go to the film red section of this chapter, right? There's a whole film red section where they talk about they're talking about the song, the creation of the song. What's it called? This is a peek at the creation of Where the Winds Blow. Now I don't know what song that is, but considering they've gone in like considerable order, this must be the one where it's like, the one Demon Dice did a cover for. Is that this one? But it doesn't kind of seem like that because that song seems a bit more upsetting and like anger focused, but this seems all happy and shit with like the creation of the song where like Shanks is messing about talking and saying like, oh, what are we gonna do, she won't sleep, but then you see a woman who's like holding a baby boy, and that's whack, and that is whack, and yes, it looks like Luffy, but it's not, it can't be. We're not gonna have Luffy actually be built into the red hair pirates. No, you can have him being like a surrogate uncle, like how he kind of is already. But no, don't actually build him into the family tree, lads. Please, please, please. But aside from that, it is a very fun, basically cover story at this point. But I have to say, I'm hoping now. Obviously, I haven't watched Film Red. I have no idea, but I am hoping we find out through these stories where Uda is in the actual canon, because we know she is a canon character. And I feel like now I'm more invested in the story of Uda and Shanks now than I actually have about Wano near the end, to be honest. What do I think of Wano overall? I still think it's like how many points do I dock it for the problems I have with it? That's the idea. Because it's like if I'm talking about it, it starts out because the highs are so high, the 10 out of 10. But then you have to dock it points for what you didn't like, right? And Sanji's character recovered himself in the later half of the arc, right? The Onigashima part of the arc, because they focused on like that moment in the bathhouse actually having an impact, and like he would actually have an impact on his character and where he went. Now I still don't like it that much, but it paid off in the end, right? Surprisingly. So could I rank that as a flaw? It's not the same as Thriller Bark. Thriller Bark just generally annoyed the fuck out of me because this sort of paid off in the end, right? But I definitely think the amnesia stuff definitely docks at a point, so that's a 9. But is there anything else I really don't like? Because I've talked about Kaido and my opinions on him, but is it bad enough to dock a point? I don't know. I honestly think nine's a solid point because I like Wano more and most people seem to like it. So I think nine's solid because I dock it for the amnesia stuff that I don't like. But a lot of the time, like everyone's complaining about Act 1 and 2. I rewatched Act 1 and 2. I enjoyed every minute of it. I'm not going to lie. Act 1 was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Besides, I think the anime dragged out the Hamlet stuff where Tama was in the belly. But that was just anime pacing issues. Everything else was grand. And the thing is, right, Act 2, I think, works because I was just enjoying having Zoro, knowing what the manga was currently on with the Zoro and King stuff. I was enjoying just seeing Zoro basically get to, understand his country more that he had to leave behind. That was one of my favorite subplots about Zoro and stuff in Wano. I feel like that was a great subplot, and I feel like that Act 2 shines another light on it when you think about it that way. To have Zoro just kind of chilling with his last remaining quote unquote relative in the country and is then killed. And that impact hits a lot more when you think about it like that. And I think it really hit. I like the Yosue personally after the rewatch, to be honest with you. And I feel like I feel like it got a lot of hate, to be honest, for no reason. I feel like mainly the problems happened. Yes, the big problem of amnesia happened in Act 2, and I've already talked about what I think they could have done differently. They could have just had Big Mom land in Udon if they wanted her to break free Luffy or force him to break free. Because if she landed in Udon, right, what could have happened is fairly easily she could have just basically saw Luffy, got annoyed, attacked him, because she woke up, the first thing she sees is the Straw Hat, attacked him, and then that whole scene plays out. And then because she's kind of distracted because she's fighting Luffy, Queen gets a sneak attack in. Maybe it doesn't take her out, but it puts her off guard. And then we still get the attachment where they're not friends because they don't know about the alliance and shit. And then she gets taken aback. And it would still be a little bad because it would kind of underplay Big Mom. But you could argue her defenses were down and she was focused on Luffy. So it would be less egregious than the amnesia shit, in my opinion. And then the mothering mode, you know what? We don't even talk about that right now. So I feel like that definitely brings it down a point, in my opinion. I think over time, Big Mom has gotten less and less redeemable for me. I love the voice actor, Big Mom. I feel like she brings a lot to the role, 100%. And like her main arc, I feel like she did a great job. But it's just Wano has been a bit all over the place in that regard. But to be honest with you, I love it. I can't say at all that I don't love Wano, especially after this chapter and the focus on Luffy and Momo. I know I've been mainly talking about the negatives because we're talking about the end of an arc, so we're talking about everything about it. I'll make a video talking about the entire arc as a whole at some point. But right now, in my opinion, right, what Wano did right was fantastic. The Gear 5 stuff. The fights, right? Well, the main fights. Alright, everything besides Nami and Ulti. Alright. Jinbei kicked ass this arc, alright? Everything with Jinbei was top tier material, right? Everyone's like, oh, well, his fight with Who's Who was just an exposition dump. Yeah, on Who's Who's side, Jinbei was just wrecking shit. He 3-hitting Who's Who, man. I love that shit. We love to see it. Right? And we got an amazing Robin fight. We got an amazing Sanji fight. We got a really good Zoro fight, and we got a excellent fight with Luffy and Kaido, right? I still think the way it ended was pretty cool because I think the explosion really made me think that could definitely work. You know what I mean? I thought that was just the rule of cool sort of worked for me there. I know a lot of people think narratively it wasn't great, but to be honest with you, with the volcano explosion after that, I was like, the rule of cool worked for me there, boys. I'm gonna be honest with me, it totally worked on me. And to be honest, that's my opinion on the arc. I know we talked mainly about other things and the Wano as a whole, in this review, other than the chapter itself. But to be fair, it is the final chapter of Wano, hopefully. And we'll see where it goes from here. We have Kid and Law talking, basically doing their gag of like, oh, you wuss, and they go down the waterfall as well. That was pretty cool. I didn't talk about that much. But I do think Law is going to still be involved in the coming arcs. And I want to see what they do from here on out. There's literally no way to guess where they go right now. There's no breadcrumbs or anything. Like, we've talked about Elbath, we've talked about Marie Joie. That doesn't seem likely anymore because Sabo escaped. So that's probably not going to happen unless Vivi didn't escape, which I doubt. There's a lot. Maybe Shank. No, you know what? We'll talk about this some other day, right? But still, there's a lot to be said about this arc. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. And with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe for more content from me. And I'll see you all next time. All right. Goodbye.